Arnold Palmer came along with his special magic, his flair for the dramatic, and his thrilling golf game. Golf and sports have never been the same. Meet the king, Arnold Palmer, tonight on Golf Talk Live. The following is an encore presentation of Golf Talk Live. We marvel at Arnold Palmer's magical relationship with his fans, his incredible long-term record of giving back so much to the game he loves, his undying, boyish enthusiasm to simply play. There are so many Arnold Palmers: husband, father, and grandfather, architect, pilot, and spokesman, businessman, friend, competitor. When we watch him hit shots now, his hair white, his face lined from years following the sun, we easily recall him at the very height of his considerable powers. And considerable they were. For Arnold Palmer is one of the greatest players the world has ever known. He has won nearly 100 tournaments around the world since he turned professional 42 years ago after winning the 1954 U.S. Amateur. His 60 PGA Tour wins have been exceeded by only Ben, Jack, and Sam. He won at least one tour event for 17 straight seasons. He won the Masters 4 times in 58, 60, 62, and 64. He won the U.S. Open in 1960 with one of the most explosive finishes in the history of the game. He won the British Open in 61 and 62. He was the first to win the U.S. Open and the U.S. Senior Open. He was named Sports Illustrated Sportsman of the Year, the Hickok Athlete of the Year, and Athlete of the Decade for the 1960s by the Associated Press. He's won on the slow platforms in Las Vegas and the fast ones at Augusta National. He's won in Great Britain, South America, Australia, France, Spain, and Canada. No one's won more Ryder Cup matches than Arnold. He's earned 4 Barden trophies for scoring average, played on 7 World Cups, was a 2-time PGA Player of the Year, and led the tour in earnings 4 times. He's a member of every International Golf Hall of Fame in the world, and the first man to win $1 million playing the game. He is also the only man to have an army named after him, an army from which there has never been a defection or a deserter. Welcome to Golf Talk Live. I'm Peter Kessler, and for those of you who have not yet met my boss, this is Arnold Palmer. How are you, my friend?
I'm fine. How are you, Peter?
I'm doing great. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you.
Well, thanks. Only you, 5 days into the new year, could be causing all kinds of excitement. Of course, I'm referring to your being the first recipient of the Francis Quimet Lifetime Achievement Award for contributions to the great game. Must have been an incredible kick.
It was a great evening, and of course, Francis Quimet was a guy that kind of got American golf off the ground. He won the Open when all others were going astray, meaning the British were winning it every year. But the evening was an exceptional evening, 1,400 people for caddies. And that was the sort of the theme of the evening. We met the caddy fun in Boston, and it was a very nice evening.
It's funny how far his influence has spread. I mean, when he won the Open in a playoff against Varden and Ray in 1913, that really signified the passing of the game to American hands from British hands. And even Gene Sarazen, who visited us recently, was saying as an 11-year-old, on the day that Quimet won and he heard about it, he said, if he can do it, I can do it. And there were so many thousands of young men who caddied and then dreamed of being great players, even influenced you. There was a time when you considered being a gentleman golfer at the time that you were a paint salesman.
Well, that's true. Yes, that's very true. We met, kind of set a new pace for American golf. And of course, we know what has happened since then. It's been a lot of fun. And he's left a great legacy in golf.
Now, do you regret that you left the world of paint poorer for your decision to go pro after winning the amateur in '54?
Oh, no. I could never say that I regret it. I certainly took a long look at it, and when I made my decision, it was the turning point, Peter, and it was a good decision as far as I'm concerned. The rest of my days have been very happy days, and if I had it to do again, I'd go back and try to do it the same way.
I'm guessing that winning the amateur in '54 has to be one of the really incredible, special moments, in addition to being a turning point, given the fellas that you beat and what it led to. I mean, beating Ed Meister and your buddy Frank Stranahan, and of course Bob Sweeney in the finals.
Well, Bob Sweeney and Frank Strafassi and a lot of people, Stranahan, who has hammered me a lot in my early days, and it was a great player. But the toughest was Sweeney. He was he just had something that was very classy about his golf game, and probably about as difficult competitor as I had seen up to that point in my life.
When you began that match and he threw 3 straight birdies at you, what was your emotional reaction at the time?
Well, I was pretty fixed on what I wanted to do, and certainly I wasn't happy that he threw those 3 birdies right in a row at me, but I didn't let it bother me as much as it might have. It would have been pretty easy to panic a little bit right then, and I just decided that we had 36 holes to play. I was a little younger than he was, and I was determined that we were going to get all 36 holes in.
Is it true that he said to you after the 3rd birdie, "Arnold, you know I can't keep this up"?
Well, the conversation went something to that effect. I'm not sure that it was just that I can't keep this up. He says, maybe something like, you know, I'm not going to birdie every hole or something. And I said, well, that is true. I don't think you can birdie every hole.
Things have changed so much from the time that you then joined the tour to Tiger Woods' joining the tour. I mean, you signed a 3-year deal with Wilson for less than $15,000 for the 3 years before you turned pro. And Tiger, before hitting a shot, of course, had $60 million in endorsements, and you weren't allowed to take a check for the first 6 months, were you?
That's right. Actually, my contract was fine. Wilson was very nice to me. They gave me $2,000 in expenses to play and get myself over that 6 months, and then the contract. But I think today, and I marvel at what has happened since then, and of course Tiger signing the contract that he signed, it is pretty amazing when you think about it. I wonder if that would have made a difference. If I'd have signed a contract for $60 million, they might not have ever seen me on the tour.
Well, wait a minute, I remember last time that we got together in these chairs, you were telling me that you were convinced that Winnie's father was just going to take care of you two, and that you were going to have a grand old time out on the tour.
Yeah, boy, I found out something about that, didn't I?
Yeah, you did, because you drove around in that '52 Ford with the trailer, right?
That's right. But he was a nice guy. He lent me some money to get me around that first 6 months. Without he and my father and their little contribution, we would have had a problem.
Very quickly, before we got a break, tell me the story about Winnie's engagement ring and Pine Valley.
Well, when I mentioned the turning point, that all happened sort of at one time. as you know, I asked Winnie to marry me in less than a week, 5 days to be exact. And then when it came time to get her a ring, I had a little problem. I had some friends in Cleveland that helped me out a little bit on that note. And then that same group and some other people, we went to Pine Valley. And of course, my boss, who unfortunately passed away very recently, was a member of Pine Valley. We made a lot of bets. And of course, I was working for him. And if I hadn't played as well as I had, I might still be working for him to pay off the debts. But the good news is that I had my first round at Pine Valley, which I'm very proud of. And a little now, it scares me when I think what I did. But I bet on single strokes. I bet a pretty good sum on shooting under 80 or under 70. And if I went over, I had to pay the big buck. And the good news is I shot 68. And the long and short of it is that I won enough to pay for Winnie's engagement ring.
It's a great story. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with the King right after this. Don't go away. I thought we'd jump quickly to the next major, the 58 Masters. I was thinking about the last round recently and that wild incident on 12 when you embedded your ball behind the green, played it out when the official wouldn't allow you to, and gouged your way to a 5. And then knowing the rules, dropped a ball and made a 3, but it was some time before you found out that you got the 3, wasn't it?
It was. I was in the middle of the 15th fairway when I got the word. But things were going reasonably well, and I was pretty sure, Peter. You know, you have a feeling for those things, and I was pretty sure I was right on that rule.
And of course, what people forget is right after making that par with the provisional ball on 12, you went ahead to eagle 13 and put yourself in pretty good shape.
I did, and I hit 2 good shots there under the circumstances. I remember Mr. Jones was there in a golf cart, and I remember the comments he made after it was over, and that made me very good, feel very good. I hit a good 3-wood off that little upslope to the back right corner of the green, and made that putt. I was a pretty happy guy, even though there was a shadow kind of hanging over my head at the time.
What were the kinds of things that Bobby Jones said to you after your first win there?
Well, he was he was very complimentary. He said, and of course, I didn't feel like I putted that well, but he said, if I ever have a putt for my life, he says, I want you to putt it for me, and I'll never forget that comment. And of course, he commented on the 3-wood that I hit to the green. He says that was one of the best shots that he had seen in his lifetime, and ended up making that eagle. But he was a very frank person, and he said exactly what was in his mind, and I liked that.
Was it just after that that you and President Eisenhower began your friendship?
Well, I had met President Eisenhower prior to that, but our relationship wasn't really a relationship. I didn't think about it that way, and I'm not sure that he did either. The fact is that when the tournament was over, Cliff Roberts asked me if I'd like to stay over, that the president wanted to play around the golf, and he was wanting to know if I would play with him. Well, you know, my answer was certainly. I'd love to stay and play a round of golf, because I had a terrible shock on Sunday evening, and when I won the tournament and everything was just going fast as it could go, and I said to Winnie, and I can't let her get off the hook on this because it's one of my favorite stories, and I said, would you write Ironman. I had won $14,000. And I said, would you write a check to Ironman,
Your caddy.
my caddy, and I was so elated, I said, and do it for $1,400. I said, that's pretty good pay in those days. And Winnie did the check, and of course a little later, and I had no idea that this was happening, but sometime later that same evening, we found out that Winnie wrote the check for $14,000. So she gave Ironman what I won in the tournament. The good news is that Ironman tried to cash it at the club, and they wanted to be sure that I wanted to give him that much, and of course we changed it and got it right. But that was one of the funny things that happened, because it didn't work out the way it might have.
They're great.
But playing with President Eisenhower was a lot of fun, and that began a relationship that lasted until his death.
Let's go ahead and talk to Brent from New Jersey. What do you think about that game, the king and the president in the same foursome, Brent?
I couldn't believe it. That must be a great honor to play with him.
How are you doing?
Very good, and it's a pleasure to be able to talk to both of you.
Thank you.
I love your show, and I watch it all the time.
Well, thanks. Say hi to Arnold.
Hi, Arnold.
How are you, Brian?
Very good. I love challenge golf, I just want to tell you.
Oh, very good. Well, I enjoyed it over the years myself.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, when you were concentrating so hard on your game, how were you able to be so social to the media and the people so everybody loved you?
Oh, well, it was easy in those days. My concentration was probably good enough that I could say hello and do the things that I was doing. It was almost like it was a whole different situation. My golf was the thing that I was concentrating most on, and the hellos were friendly hellos and meant to be, but my mind never left my golf game.
Let's go ahead and talk to Joyce. How are you tonight?
Mr. Palmer, it's an honor to speak to you.
Thank you.
You're in such great shape. Other than play golf, what do you do for physical fitness?
Well, I exercise every day, and right now I do some light weightlifting. I run. I do a lot of stretching. I use some of the new ab machines that you see on the infomercials and so forth. And I play golf a lot. So I keep exercise. I probably do, if you count the golf as an exercise, I probably do 6 hours of exercise a day.
I'm exhausted just hearing that. We're going to take a short break so I can rest, and we will be right back with Arnold Palmer. You know, I think for all of us who were watching the President's Cup and watching you sit in that golf cart over the weekend, thinking about that nobody's won more matches in Ryder Cup history than you have, I had the sense that any moment you looked so antsy that you were going to jump out of that cart, grab somebody's 5-iron, and make yourself the designated hitter for the rest of a hole. It's tougher to watch than play for you, isn't it?
Oh, it was, that is, I tell you, I had more fun seeing the guys win the President's Cup probably than I have had winning myself. But I was pretty antsy. There's no question about it. And, you know, at one point, the last day, I thought that we were over the hill. I thought we had it. And only to realize that I had counted a point wrong, and that we were in very bad shape. And when Freddie made that putt, of course, there were a lot of things happening. I remember going over to the hole, and he was coming up after he'd hit his second shot into the green, and I was looking at him, trying to get his attention to encourage him, and I didn't want to be too obvious. I just wanted to give him a nod, and he never looked at me. And later he said, "I wasn't about to look at you." He said, "I was scared to death." He says, "I knew what I had to do," and he says, "I was afraid if I looked, I might not make it." And he was really great. He just did a good job.
It's funny, I was talking to some of your friends who were on tour with you in the 60s, and they were telling me about the year that Hogan was captain of the Ryder Cup team, I think 67, and Hogan had sent out a letter to all of you saying stuff about clothing and about which ball was going to be played and when he wanted you to be there. And rumor has it you showed up a little bit later than everybody else, buzzed in on the airplane to give him a little hello, and that you sailed into the room and said to Hogan, "When am I playing and what's going on?" And he said, "Who said you've made the team?" Is that true?
No, no, that's not true. He was, Hogan was a very good captain, and one thing, Peter, I'm never late. I'll be there when I'm supposed to be there. But I did do some things there that I probably shouldn't have done, that has to do with an airplane. And I took the British team for a ride in an airplane. And they all wanted to go. They were very anxious, and I gave them a ride.
Upside down, I heard.
Oh, it was pretty rough. It was, and I shouldn't have done that. That was kind of a thrill for me to do, but it was a little rough on them. And we had a couple guys get sick, but it was meant to be fun, and it got a little rougher than I had intended it to.
I heard a few of them still have the shakes. Let's talk to David in North Carolina. Hello, David.
Hey, Peter, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Oh, just fine. Great show.
Thank you.
Mr. Palmer, honored to talk to you.
Thank you.
I've had the pleasure of playing a couple of your courses. One I'm going to always remember was Oak Valley. Got to play with my dad and my brother. We really enjoyed the course.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
The other one, me and a buddy of mine last weekend played Kings North. Got our picture taken next to your statue.
Well, now there's some pretty good holes out there. How did you handle all those water holes?
Birdied the Gambler, and I parred number 18, one with, I think, 41 or 42 bunkers.
That's right. That's a tough hole.
Beautiful course. Speaking of courses, my question is, outside yourself, who do you admire most as a golf architect?
Well, I think there's been a lot of great architects, and from some of the old timers back to Papa Jones, right up to guys that I compete with in design today, have done some very good golf courses. Courses like Pinehurst and some of the other golf courses that we have played through the years, Oakmont, Wingfoot, all of those golf courses I enjoy very much, and of course their designs come from some years back, and I think they're great.
You know, one of the things that you and your design partner Ed C. have been doing is making courses that everybody can play, and it seems like it's. Well, you're going to go ahead and say something.
No, go ahead.
I'm just going to say that it seems like, excuse me, there's a trend towards courses that the 15 handicapper can play and the touring professional can play. Do you like that?
Well, Peter, that was my deal from the beginning. We've never tried to design golf courses that were unplayable. We want to give people an opportunity to enjoy the game. If we can do a golf course that on Sunday afternoon a family can go out and have a good game and enjoy the golf course, that's what we're trying to do. And the other side of that is that on Monday we can make that same golf course a challenge for the professionals. Then I have accomplished what I'm trying to accomplish. Add beauty, add environment, add all the things that are necessary to that. And if I've done that, then I've done what I think I started out to do.
You told me a couple of years ago that your priorities were family, golf, flying. Where does architecture fit into that group?
Well, it's becoming a very important part of my life now, and playing less and doing a lot more work on the golf courses that we're designing around the world, and of course seeing them finished and seeing what we've accomplished is very satisfying to me.
And one of the great legacies that you leave?
Well, I hope so.
We're going to take a short break. We will be right back with Arnold Palmer right after this. Don't go away.